Everyone. We're going to continue our sustainability topic this afternoon. My name is Matthew Campelli. I'm the editor and founder of the Sustainability Report, the inside track in sport and sustainability. And this afternoon, I'm pleased to be joined by Yoan Noguier, who is the co-founder and director of the Yunus Sports Hub. Thank you, Johan, for joining us.
Thank you, thank you.
I really enjoyed your session this morning. It was really interesting to find out a little bit about what you do. So perhaps we can go a little bit deeper during our short Q&A. You talked about procurement, and sustainable procurement was one of the main concepts you discussed this morning. So just in a nutshell, how would you describe sustainable procurement? What does it mean to you?
For me, sustainable procurement would be about making the place where you did perform the procurement a better place than it was before. So, in most of the mega events that we are creating today, we're getting better and better at reducing the negative impact that we're having through carbon footprint and all of that. But maybe something that we should look towards now is how do we maximize the impact, the positive impact that we have. And, mega events, by having a huge budget for a very small amount of time and a very restricted geographical area, is definitely, a leverage, having this purchasing power.
When we talk about, because I think sustainability to this point, definitely in sport anyway, has been, like you say, minimizing the negative. But can you give me some examples of how we can increase the positive, make it a net positive impact when we do organize a mega event?
So, I give you the example of Paris 2024. We have 7 billion euros to organize the game. This is the overall budget that we will use to pay for the products and the services that will be purchased to organize the games. The question is, how do we maximize the share within these 7 billion euros of social business suppliers, which are businesses that only exist to solve social issues? They will, at the end of the day, provide you the same service, same product, but they will have a collateral social advantage. I give you an example. Like if you take catering, you have two choices. Either you go to a standard catering company, or you can go to a social business catering company that will deliver the same thing, which is catering services, food, but will only work with refugees, will only work with long-term unemployed people, will only source locally grown products. So with the same amount of money, you will actually deliver something else. Of course, this is a very, let's say, very simplified way of putting it, because you can argue that the small social business supplier is more expensive, or that he doesn't have what it takes to have such a big tender, or that this big supplier has Olympic experience, which is really important, of course, when operating on site. But it's not a reason to stop here. Like how do you help the small social business supplier between now and 2024 to scale up, to go from 50 people to 200 people and be able to have, to take care of a bigger tender? How do you work with Paris 2024 to reduce the size of the markets and then being able to accommodate smaller suppliers? And even if you say, hey, we need to work with this supplier, with this big supplier because he has the experience, how do you do to create bridges between and partnerships between social business suppliers as subcontractors of the big ones? Because let's be honest, I mean, like 90%, over 90% of the procurement volume would still be done through big suppliers. But if as subcontractors we integrate these guys, you will not only have an impact on the games itself, because of course they will deliver social impact on the games, but also these big suppliers will see that value and certainly work again with them after the game. So you will have, even outside the world of sport, you will have an impact.
So these are big questions. We're talking about, scaling up, probably very small companies, building bridges between bigger companies who may not necessarily need to work with the smaller companies. Have you managed to maybe not answer those questions, but are you some way to finding the answer to those questions?
I mean, we have a program that is already up and running with Paris 2024. This is in partnership with Lecano, who is the federator of social business in Paris area. So it can be replicated, to other with that kind of organization. So basically, what we're trying to do through this platform, which really aims at getting some business for these social businesses. This is the final aim. What we're doing is basically first we are serving as a watch, a strategic watch for them, an information kind of point. So we go to the event of Paris 2024, we go to the event of the territories that are launching tenders, and we put that information in an easy to understand manner for the social business sector. So we are this kind of watch department of the social business sector on one side. On the other side, what we also do is we serve Paris 2024 as innovation sourcing of social businesses. So we present them the best cases that exist on the market so that they know about it and they can adapt the tender to that. So like, of course, you know that the way you write a tender will certainly have a big impact on what is out, on the outcome. So this is the second way that we can do it. And the third way is we build on what is already existing in Paris in terms of accelerating structure, on how to support social businesses to scale up. So either it is through incubators, through existing events. You will have between now and 2024 a lot of events, whether it is test events for the games, but also events that are linked to other sports. So how do we make sure that we get the good social business player, which we think have a chance to participate? How do we make sure that they get, as suppliers and get some kind of the Olympic experience before the games?
Are you working with any other sports organizations and events now with social businesses in that respect?
It is, let's say, we are, this concept is basically adaptable to any event, because it's really about, it's more of a procurement approach rather than like a sport-specific approach. So it's of course like adaptable to any kind of event.
Okay. So for concerts and maybe conferences and anything that's okay. When we talk about the social business kind of industry, are we speaking specifically about France now? How big would you say that sector is? I mean, how many companies are in that social business sector?
It's 10% of the employment, the social economy.
All of France?
Yeah. In Paris, sorry. So it's big, and it's a sector that is interesting more and more young people as well. So the only fact of you as a big corporate integrating this, not only because you know that you will have an impact on the society and create solutions for the local communities, but it's also a way to engage your employee. It's also a way to have a better CSR policy. It's a win-win situation in any case.
It's also a way, I guess, to engage the organisers for Paris 2024, because they've been very explicit about being a very sustainable event. So if you're a big company wanting to supply that event, if you're working with a social business, that strengthens your case, right?
Exactly. So we are definitely, so in this process of creating an innovation, social innovation sourcing for Paris 2024, we also engage the big companies. So we create what we called an impact document, which is a 5 to 6 pages document on every procurement categories of like what are, like, let's say the best innovations in the sector, and this is done by the civil society, by the social businesses, and by the big companies themselves. So this is, let's say, collective intelligence at the service of Paris 2024.
So all of this you've put together around procurement, you say it's replicable. So for example, if I'm putting together a small sports event, where can I get this information? How can I adapt this to my event?
So you can just go on the platform ESS 2024. This is the name of the platform of the program that is financed by the organizers. That is also that is a precedent. That's the first time where the organizer is actually financing that kind of platform that is like just to make sure that we are maximizing the positive impact of the game. So if you want to have information about that, you go on ess2024.org, and this is where you will have all the definition of the program.
Just one final question, Yoan. You mentioned previously when you were looking at the social businesses and you were recommending certain ones to Paris 2024 or other events. What kind of criteria do you have to kind of pick the recommended organizations? What ones kind of stand out for you?
I mean, at the end of the day, these guys, Paris 2024, they need to organize an event. So it's not because they are a social business that they need to be in. they need to adapt to the need of Paris 2024. So let's say the way we pick the social businesses is because they are the best one to provide such products or services. We are not doing any charity here. We are in deep competition. We're trying to get the social businesses at the level of the businesses. So, I mean, the way we pick them up is we make sure that they have the right certification to apply to the bids. We make sure that they are competitive in terms of price. We make sure that they have an actually operating structure that is good enough to support an Olympic experience.
Are you helping them bid for startup funding as well? You mentioned acceleration programs.
So indirectly, with all the ecosystem that exists in Paris and that is really rich around that, the idea is to, once we have defined what are, let's say, the best example where we think, okay, these guys will certainly win something if they get a bit of help, then we connect them to the existing ecosystem of accelerators, incubators, and all of that.
And that's quite a big network in Paris. It's a big
really rich, yeah.
Fantastic. Do we have any questions for Yoan before we finish the Q&A session? Okay, fantastic. Yoan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Please give Yoan a warm round of applause for his time this afternoon. Thank you, Yoan.
Cheers.